And hello and welcome to the Sports Pilgrimage with your host James O'Brien here on Stream City Radio, Stream City Sports, as we talk travel and sports. Two of my favorite subjects rolled into one here. And this show, we're basically going to do weekly trips where we plan, around baseball, around college football, or whatever sports may be going on at the time. And my first few shows, we're going to just recap some that we've done in the past and talk about some of the things we've learned, some of the tips we have, some of what are key things to me when we're making these trips. What I particularly love about the college trips is it gets you off the beaten path. I have a million reasons to go to New Orleans. Not so much for Durham, North Carolina, or Chapel Hill, or Waco, Texas, or Kent, Ohio. Those places I may or may not get past. So this is an opportunity to get out there and see some parts of the country, learn some interesting things about our fellow Americans, how they like to tailgate, how they like to do things, and just see a little bit of the country. And that's basically, making trips to large cities can be a lot of fun, but you're not necessarily getting the flavor of, the full flavor of Texas if all I do is go to Houston. But making trips out to Waco and to College Station, places like that, kind of add to that experience. And that's the first one we're going to talk about. It's actually my oldest grandson's 13th birthday coming up. Gave him the opportunity to pick a trip for Labor Day weekend, gave him several options. He chose East Texas. And so that's what we did. Made a trip out to Houston. We'll go through that whole thing. But first, starting with just some things that I find to be important that kind of add to the trip. One, always eat local. I'm not interested in chain restaurants or any of that stuff when I'm out doing these trips. Now, if I'm going to hit a fast food restaurant, which we do often when we first hit the ground, for kind of get orientated, leaving the airport and headed to the hotel to get checked in, or what have you. And generally, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to find one that is not local to the Atlanta area. And kind of what has become a little bit of our go-to is In-N-Out Burger. I mean, it's a step above just traditional fast food, and it's something I can't get in Atlanta. So last two trips I've made, that's been our kind of our starting point from between the airport and our hotel would be a stop into In-N-Out Burger and get some animal fries and a double animal burger and just let it roll. So anyhow, that's but always try and, hey, it's a sports trip. Got to be a sports bar involved. Now this one, and the good part about this one is I've got my grandsons along, but sports bars are traditionally family friendly. They're not a bar. Another thing I try and work in is there's going to be some fine dining along the way, which for fine dining to me does not mean a 5-star restaurant, but it does mean I'm going to find a good steak or some good seafood depending on where I'm at. And it doesn't have to be, like I said, 5-star and cost you $60 a plate to find that. And then a couple other things with I'm a second deck guy. I love to sit in the second deck for football specifically, just because you get a better feel for what's going on in the game. You can kind of, you see routes develop and all the reasons you'd want to sit up there as opposed to being in the lower level. I've kind of changed over time, though, on these trips because it is about being immersed in the culture. And I have found, for the most part, especially if it's a bigger venue, getting in that lower level does help you kind of immerse yourself in it when you're only going to be there one day and you're not as familiar with the ins and outs of, how certain teams do things there is an advantage to being in that lower deck. View's not going to be as good, but the immersion in the entirety of the game can be better. Also, the other part is if you're dealing with one of these Thursday night or even a Friday night game where the attendance might not be as high, being in that lower level does make a big difference because that is where the crowd's going to be. So that's a couple of the important things. Travel, I do like the idea of being close. I like the idea of finishing my last day fairly close to the airport I'm leaving from. So this trip specifically worked out really well because we flew into Houston and basically did a big round robin. And we'll get into that, but it was Houston, it was Waco, it was College Station, back to Houston. And if you're familiar with the geography of that area, that is basically one big round trip. So that worked out quite well. That worked out quite well for this trip. And so that's the one thing that I would suggest. We flew to Arizona and did Arizona State game. And with that particular game, those games, it was Friday night, Saturday. We stayed over on Sunday, left on Monday. Had it to do over again, I'd fly in on Thursday, leave on Sunday. Because we actually flew, or I would have flown into Tucson, one or the other. I guess really the thing is, if I'm leaving the next day, I want to be close to my airport with the last game. If I am, or at least where I stay. If I'm got a day, then it's not quite as important to be right there at the departure point, because we could have stayed in Tucson, had more time on the ground in Tucson. So what we did, we flew into Arizona, drove down. So by the time we got there, we're kind of rushing a little bit. Really didn't get to enjoy Tucson like we would have liked to before the Arizona game. And then, of course, the next day we're jetting up to Arizona State to stay in up around Tempe. And then we had all day Sunday that we could kind of do whatever we wanted to. Should have taken in the Cardinals game. We could have done that. But we didn't. So just some things I've learned depending on your itinerary. Because with that one, we could have, it was a little more expensive flying to Tucson. Not that much more, but we could have moved things around. And that's the one thing I would suggest when you're putting this thing together. I'm a Delta guy. Delta out of Atlanta is easy. You're talking nonstops. You're talking multiple flights a day to most places you want to get to. And you have good access to the entire Delta network out of Atlanta. So to me, that's been a great go-tour. With like this trip to Houston, we had two options. We could have gone into International or into Hobby, and chose Hobby. It was closer, just worked out a little bit better. Tickets were almost identical in price. And, if you hit that 6 to 8 week window, it's kind of that sweet spot for buying the tickets, is at least what I've found. You can start looking out in advance. If you're going a holiday weekend, that kind of thing, it could be a little bit more difficult, although it was not. This trip, we were able to fly 4 of us round trip to Houston for about $950. So not too bad, and that was a Labor Day weekend, which we were coming back. We flew out on Thursday. We came back on Sunday. But that's one of the things that I like to do with Delta is I can put my dates in, but put them as flexible, and then kind of see what's going to save me the most money and work my itinerary around that. And that worked out really well. I think the thing to remember to me with these trips, because especially if you're talking about a flight, the airline flight is going to be a big portion of your expense. Once I'm there, I want to maximize the trip. An extra day on the ground, especially if it's a group of 4 like this was, a lot of times it might just be me and Carolyn traveling, so it may just be a group of 2. Then the extra day on the ground is a little bit more comparable to the air flight, but with 4 of us going, an extra day, just compared to the flight, and you start weighing everything out, it's money well spent to have an extra day on the ground. So it's but that's one of those things. Like I said, I like putting it in there, showing my days is flexible, because sometimes, what I've noticed with Delta, if you're staying over till Monday, that might save you a lot of money. Or if I'm leaving on Thursday as opposed to Friday, or, it just kind of depends on when demand to that particular city is. So I found that to be a very useful tool when planning these. But yeah, Delta got us out there, we left, it was 8:05 in the morning. With the time change, we're on the ground 9:05, had plenty of time to go get checked into our hotel. We did actually hit In-N-Out Burger on our way over there, and made that. That's another thing I found. One of the things that with these trips that I really like to do is, because most of the time I don't have a strong rooting interest. If I've got a rooting interest, that's different. Otherwise, I'm gonna go pull for the home team. So that little quick trip to Walmart to buy the $12 t-shirt, the $20 hat, to go be a part of, kind of that immersion into what they've got going on, I found to be kind of cool and a lot more fun. But what I really like to do is, as a Georgia fan, I wear my Georgia hat and then whatever shirt for that school, and that tends to spark some really good conversation with the local fans. Is, okay, why is there a Georgia fan here? What's the deal? So once again, just more of that kind of learning the whole, having those conversations. You learn places you might want to go eat, and to me that's part of it. And so any rate, we were able to, the advantage a lot of times, like these Thursday games specifically, and the Thursday, as producer Bella has shown up on the desk, and these Thursday games specifically, you can a lot of times get really good deals on hotels. This one was fantastic. We got the Hilton, University of Houston, right there on campus, 0.8 miles from the stadium. And literally, we could have stayed 3 or 4 miles away, more in the downtown area, and spent the same money. This saves you on parking and just the whole rigmarole of trying to roll in, park, go to the game. So I really enjoyed that part of it. You're staying there. The Houston team was staying there with us, and short walk, and gave us a great opportunity to explore the campus. And Houston. It is a pretty campus when you walk it, so we really enjoyed that part of it. Seeing a little bit of the history of the school, and then we wanted to grab a bite before we went in. Well, we are in Texas, let's try a little barbecue. So we did. And the great thing with the University of Houston, literally across, not even across the parking lot, across the pavilion, you have a barbecue place, sit down, got TVs, and I'm trying to recall it was What It Do Barbecue. What It Do Barbecue. That was the name of it. And like I said, you sit in there, it's a little cafeteria feeling. But it sets up well for a lot of people to be able to be in there. They've got TVs. Food was fantastic. So that made great pre-gaming to go in there and kick back and relax. And then, of course, we get into the game, and they had decent food selection inside the stadium. They had, if you're a beer drinker, they had decent beer selection in there as well, and a tequila bar. So, hey, if you're so inclined. But I thought it was kind of cool. Tequila bar right there is you come down the stairs from, because this one we did sit in the upper deck. A little bit smaller stadium, a little bit, I believe, under 50,000, like 48,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. Cool little stadium. It was, like I said, you're close enough. You felt good about it. We were probably 10 rows up in the second level, about the 45-yard line. Great seats. Enjoyed the game. Houston goes on to beat Stephen F. Austin. And then after the game, this is the only downside to it being early in the season and on a Thursday night. Not a lot going on after the game. But the other side of that is it was concentrated in one small area. So I made it over to the Den, which is just right there on the edge of campus, and had the Cougar Club sandwich. Yes, it is a college bar. This was much better than college bar food. This is a fantastic sandwich that I had at the Den, the College Club sandwich. Yeah, hit the spot, headed on back, got a good night's sleep. Early in the next morning, we are off to Waco, Texas. And Waco, you've got a couple different ways you can get to Waco. This one, what I really like to do majority of the time is when I've got two options, I'm gonna take one and then come back the other. So we actually ended up going and coming the exact same way. And that was Highway 6, which goes right past College Station. You could have gone 45 north to 164 west, and but I don't know what was going on that morning when we checked. I mean, it's as I was building this trip out, normally about a 10 to 15 minute difference. That morning, for whatever reason, there was about a 35-minute difference, so we opted to just go Highway 6. It's an easy drive, especially once you get out of Houston, which I firmly believe. I believe this with all my heart. Whoever designed the interstate system in Houston was sadistic. If you do not like heights, which I do not, I'm used to high flyover overpasses, but this is on steroids, and a huge portion of the interstate is 60 feet in the air. So be prepared for that. But all in all, I mean, it was traffic was not terrible. Like I said, we headed out. We did get an early jump. Headed out, went up there. My daughter's a huge fan of Chip and Joanna Gaines. That is actually one of the few of as somebody with a remodeling background, one of the few remodeling shows that I can really enjoy. They do a good job, but she wanted to eat at Magnolia Table, which, I'm always, when you're dealing with celebrities and you're going, boy, we're about to pay a bunch of money for a little bit of food. That was not the case. Magnolia Table, the food was phenomenal. The biscuits with the strawberry and butter jelly, they were fantastic. And then the fact that, and then I had the slider. They had a flight of sliders, and completely filled me up. They had a barbecue cheddar one. They had a pimento cheese one, and I think it was just a traditional burger. I can't remember it off the top of my head. Just everything we had. The boys had chicken fingers. Savannah had a breakfast plate. It was all just really, really good. Do plan ahead though. Get your reservations. The place will be packed. You will have a wait. There's not a ton of parking around it, so you're going to have to plan for that as well. But all in all, I was, like I said, my initial thought is, all right, we're dealing with celebrities here. This is going to be overpriced. It was not. It was not. Very fairly priced, great portions, and the food was phenomenal. So I would highly recommend Magnolia Table if you do go back out. If you do find yourself in Waco, it was good. It was really good. Then we went and saw. We'd gotten checked into our hotel right after that, and then went and looked at the Baylor campus, which once again it's a very pretty campus. Got some beautiful buildings on campus, and got the fountain. Of course, the Bears are right there on campus. You can go by and see the Baylor Bears, and right very close to the school bookstore. So it all laid out really well. Now that night, because of the fact that it was my grandson's birthday, just my oldest grandson and myself went to the game, and my daughter and my younger grandson actually went on a ghost tour of Waco, which I really like the ghost tours. Okay, we're not getting into whether you believe in ghosts or not. That's totally irrelevant. Not why we do the ghost tours. The ghost tours, to me, once again, when you're trying to kind of immerse yourself in a culture, to get out there and learn some history, which basically that's what these are. They're walking history tours. And then learn some of the superstitions and the fables of an area. That to me is cool. And to learn that stuff is a lot of fun. So that's a great way to fill an extra day if you've got one, to me, just personally. Because I just like I said, when am I going to do a walking tour of Waco or Charleston or anywhere else? Not that much of a walker. So, but I'll do it with a purpose. And they thoroughly enjoyed that. My grandson is 10, and he was enthralled. So, young lady who did a fantastic job, and then gave us a recommendation on where to eat when we went to. She was actually from Bryan, Texas, which, if you're familiar, is right next to College Station, and told us, gave us a recommendation on a good steak place, which we did take up, and she was not wrong, not at all wrong. So anyhow, we're trying to eat something before we go to the stadium that night. We all swing out, and just right on the edge of campus is a place called Shorty's Pizza Shack. Okay, doesn't look like a lot from the road, but my philosophy is, if you're not wowing me with the exterior of your building and you've been in business a while, that's because you've got good food. This place had excellent food. Once again, kind of a college bar atmosphere. But they have a thing called pizza pillows, which were basically, I would say it's a calzone, but it's got a little more pastry to it maybe than your traditional calzone. They were fantastic. They were fantastic. Had those, and we did the macaroni and cheese bites. Just, I would almost go back to Waco just to go eat at this place again. It was that good. But the entire trip to Waco, we really enjoyed the city. And then Mason and I went on to the ball game. And, of course, their stadium sits right on the Brazos River, which it's really a pretty setting. There's a walking bridge coming from main campus where a lot of the kids come in. And so just the whole surrounding there, it's a nice setting for a football game. And this is a newer stadium. And what they did, which gives it some cool charm, is on one end, they still have they call it the berm, and it's just a small grassy area where we actually sat for the game. Now, does it give you the best view of the game? No, it doesn't. And the only downside is the big video board is behind you. So you have to turn and look at it if something's going on at the other end of the field. That was a minor concession, though, because it was really a cool place to sit and watch a ball game. We thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a great ball game, back and forth between Auburn and Baylor. Auburn comes out on the winning side of this thing, and it was just a great experience. The one thing I would suggest, though, Baylor, guys, it's August. You're in Texas. Not a blackout. Don't do a blackout. Do a gold out. Black's not even one of your colors. I mean, gold, much cooler than black. What was really cool, though, and I had no, and I'm a huge college football fan, I had no knowledge that they did this. When, the band's out and coming out and everybody's done warming up, they bring the student section in on the lower gate on the opposite side of where they're going to enter to sit, and they actually form the tunnel for the team to run through. But to see, I don't know how many kids wearing gold shirts, which they all took off and had black underneath. So salute to them for playing along with the blackout thing. But just this swarm of gold goes running across the field. It was really a cool thing to see, especially from the angle we had, because we're right down there at field level. And it just an endless sea of gold running across the field. Really cool. But that's the kind of things I enjoy learning about different schools as we go around and see them. And they, like I said, it was a good game. Auburn comes away with a close win. And we head on back and get ready, get a good night's sleep. Next morning off to Texas A&M to see them take on Texas San Antonio. And the other great part about this is when you're doing these trips, your Thursday and Friday games are guaranteed to be night games. We got lucky in the fact that the Texas A&M game also ended up being a Friday night game, so it gives plenty of time once we got down there. And it also led us to the conclusion of we are going to stay between College Station and Houston for our final night rather than staying in College Station. So we get there, the young lady had suggested a place that my daughter had done some research and already found, and this girl just confirmed it, and it's called Sodalac's Beef Masters Restaurant. It is right off the interstate, and right there in Bryan. And people talk about a steak being so tender you could cut it with a spoon. This steak was so tender, I'm not sure I needed my teeth to eat it. It was fantastic, and we all ate there, all four of us. The boys, they had a lunch special for two 14-ounce, it was 14-ounce ribeyes with the sides, and it was less than $10. And my daughter and I both got steaks. There was not a speck of steak left on that table when we got done. The sides were great, but the steak is where it's at. And I mean, it was. So if you are passing through Bryan, Texas on Highway 6, do yourself a favor, stop. Now, I know the locals probably already know this, but if you're not a local, if for some reason you're, I don't know, an SEC fan of any kind, and you are headed out to an A&M game, do it. Go for lunch, especially if it's a night game, and fill yourself up with some of the best steak you'll ever have. I've had way more expensive steaks that were not nearly as good. It was a fantastic steak. It was really, really good. Cannot recommend Sodalac's enough. So we got done there, get done with lunch, and head down to Texas A&M. And because of the size of the stadium, I decided, all right, we're going to go ahead and pre-purchase our parking. And fairly, when you look at the grand scheme of their parking, fairly close to the stadium, still a 75-mile walk. But the great part about College Station is very flat. The one thing I will say is where a lot of stadiums, and it's one of the things that makes the stadium so impressive down there, is it is not below ground. You go to Michigan, Athens, a lot of them, the bowl is actually kind of in the ground, and then they built the stadium. No, this thing rises out of the prairie like it's just massive in there. And we got there and drove around a little bit, just kind of get our bearings. Looking for a sports bar. We hadn't done the sports bar thing yet. And like I said at the beginning, that's kind of one of my big things is I really like doing the sports bar. I mean, it's a sports trip. I also like doing if there's a local brewery. Love to hit those. Didn't do that. Got my grandsons with me. So we kind of devalued the drinking a bit on this trip. But we did find right back across the bridge going back towards the interstate, there's a little place called Fourth Downs, and it doesn't serve food, but there's plenty of restaurants right around there where you can run out and grab it and bring it in. They're cool with it. And super friendly. Had a lot of stuff for the boys to do. Had the pool, had the basketball machine where they shoot hoops. My grandsons will find those. If you needed to find water in the desert, take them and put one of those basketball machines beside it. They will find it for you. So they were happy as clam. We kicked back, watched the Georgia game, and watched the Alabama-Florida State game, and ate wings from. I think we went to Wingstop. I think there's Wingstop in the same plaza with them, and it was a great place to just kick back. It'd be 30 some odd TVs, pool tables, dartboards. They got the whole works. I think they had several dozen taps. So fourth down's pretty good place to take in a game. Went to the game. Like I said, we parked, and it is a hike, but I say it's not really any worse than what I'm used to when we go to Athens. I mean, but it's flat. It was very flat. We got there, somehow got in line for the elevators. Don't know how we did it. It was a happy accident. As I said earlier, I'm not a huge fan of heights, and I don't normally have a problem inside a stadium, even being upper deck pretty high. This, however, we got off the elevator. I'm going to say the walkway is 20 feet wide and 7 stories in the air. I didn't love it. Didn't love it. Took me a minute to get my bearings. And we actually walked down to our seats. We were like 4th row upper deck. And in the end zone, but all in all, once again, great seats. They're doing their swaying thing, which really helped with my trying to acclimate to the height. That in the 60-mile-an-hour wind, it was a exhilarating experience. So, but anyhow, I got settled in up there, and it is a massive stadium, and it is right up on the sidelines. If for my Georgia friends, imagine if the stands started where the hedges are. That's kind of what you got. I mean, it's like whoop, straight up. So you are, I mean, all that noise is right in there. So fantastic home field advantage. The Aggies band, if you have not seen them, you want to talk about a military precision marching band. Just go online and look at it, but it's not the same as seeing it in person. It's really impressive. It really is. And so once again, Texas A&M had kind of like Houston in the first game, had a comfortable win in that one. But we had a great time. Like I said, we drove about halfway back to Houston, which is only about 45 minutes, but that put us 45 minutes out on a Sunday morning, easy peasy, straight in, returned to rental car, off on our Delta flight, and we're back 2 hours later. I think the flight was an hour and 55 minutes, and of course you lose the hour in the travel time, but just a great trip, and that's an example of what this show is going to be. Is planning these trips and plotting out what the money's going to look like to give you an idea for that. Give you an idea on this trip. We spent, like I said, about $950 on the plane tickets. I think we had a total of about $650 to $650 in hotels. I think we got gas one time. That's an easy trip. I mean, this kind of fell into our lap. When you're talking about it's 3 hours one way to Waco from Houston, and then you're halfway back to Texas A&M, and then back to Houston. It's just the perfect trip. I'm trying to think. So the rental car, I think we spent less than $250 on the rental car. So we're looking at. But I think the total trip, when I look back at the tickets, we had Florida, Texas A&M. Those are the most expensive tickets of the bunch. I think the 4 of those tickets, we paid right around maybe $500 in that. I think we had like maybe $800 in tickets. So we're somewhere in the $2,500 neighborhood for 4 of us to go to 3 college football games and see a part of the country that I've been through Houston, but I've never been north of there up towards Waco and College Station and all that. So it's a fantastic trip. And when you get right down to it, $750 a person probably is what we're looking at. To me, that's value for your money, and it was a lot of fun. Built some memories that we will cherish. But that's kind of the feel for this show. And we've done a bunch of those. Matter of fact, what I'm gonna do is kind of recap. Probably the first 5 shows are gonna be recaps of trips I've actually made and where we've learned some lessons. Like I said, I've set low in other games, but the Baylor game really pointed out to me how much being low, when you're trying to kind of absorb that energy and just, the whole feel of what's going on there, to me, that was the great way to go. Hope you enjoyed the show. You can follow and like if you would like. We'll be doing more of these on our YouTube channel, and we'll play these also on Tuesdays on Stream City Radio. Hey, come around and join us again. And safe travels, my friends.